And hello everybody, welcome to our webinar on merchandising and store layouts made easy. That's actually quite a mouthful when you say it like that.
It is a bit of a mouthful, but it's all very important.
It's all very important. Now, to be honest with you, this is incredibly important. For any of you setting up restaurants, cafes, takeaways, retail, anything like that, this is probably one of the biggest areas that you need to consider.
Definitely.
It's absolutely enormous, and it's one where we see that people are just all the time no idea what they're doing or making it up as they go along. And to a degree, making it up as you go along is okay. But the thing is, there's an actual science to this, and that's why we have grabbed David here. So I'm already talking too much, so hold on a second. Let me introduce you. So I'm Soraya Lavery. You all know that, I think, at this point. This is David Anthony.
Yes.
David is a visual merchandiser. He has years of experience. I won't steal his thunder because I know you're going to say a lot, but we've been working with David for several years now, and his work is just absolutely incredible. The things that he has put together and the brands, as you can see there, that he's turned around, has been absolutely phenomenal. So he's definitely a man worth listening to and taking advice from, and we do as well, because you need years and years of experience to really get this right. And it's not one of the skill sets that we have, which is why we defer to your brilliance.
Brilliance, I like that.
Yeah, very good.
Great.
So listen, a very big welcome to you,
David.
And thank you so much for coming along.
Oh, no problem.
Really enjoy that. And so basically, guys, I'm just going to hand over to David now, and you're in the driver's seat, I guess.
Great,
so
fantastic.
thank you for doing this.
No problem. So I'm a visual merchandiser, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in depth as we go along. But just on this screen, you can see a few of the brands that I've worked with. I started working with Calicchio's about sort of 10, 12 years ago, and then I shifted to Caffè Nero, and then I started working freelance about 3 years ago with Contra Labane and with Wafflemeister as well.
Okay,
and
all
I'll talk
big
about
names, really,
all big names. So
yeah.
Calicchio's is probably the biggest name. I have a fashion and a homewares background, but then I shifted into hospitality, which is very niche for visual merchandising. There aren't many people like me working with cafes and restaurants, but with Calicchio's, they were a brand. So Antonio is a very well-known chef, had shows on the BBC, and so him and his partner started Calicchio's, and then it grew from there. So,
I mean, it's huge. I mean, it's every street corner and in Ireland.
And it's even bigger now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and their stuff is good. I know.
Yeah, their food is still great. I still go and eat there, still to this day.
Yeah,
I'm really proud of all the work that I did with them and helped them to get where they are. So, yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay, so here's a little bit more about me. This is my website, David Anthony Creative. So it has my portfolio on there with all my new and current work. I also have a journal on there as well, and I have an Instagram live feed on there now as well. I work with Modern Retail, who are interesting people to look at as well. So if you have a retail business, they really help small independent businesses as well. So that's a really good resource to have a look at and see who else is doing what out there.
Okay. So does your blog just kind of keep up to date with what's happening?
Yeah. So my blog, I send them my retail blogs, my work and other retailers that I see out there, independent and larger retailers, and they basically just stream those stories on there as well.
Okay.
So it's a great resource.
Good, because I know you were telling me last time that we met that you actually do a lot of trips around London, just having a look
I do.
At what's
I
going
photograph
on.
stuff all the time. So everything you see on Instagram for me is like, I use Instagram as a mood board. So it's just quick snap images of things that are creative that I really like. So I journal about my own work and other retailers, but a lot of art and design as well.
Okay.
So which really interests me, and that's the inspiration behind most things anyway.
Right.
So yeah. And I also exhibit on the bottom right hand corner. You can see the VM and display show. So that's a trade show for our industry, and I exhibit there as well.
Okay, so obviously that's worth going to if you're setting up something like this.
You're setting up, if you're interested in visual merchandising and props and all sorts of things, printers, all those sorts of people, you'll find those people at this show, and it's usually on around sort of like late April each year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good to keep an eye on that, because things do change around, like the same design isn't going to work in 10 years' time.
Things move on, things change, new people come and go, all sorts of things happen. So yeah, so you can see that I consult, I'm a visual merchandiser, I work on brand identity, store interiors, prop sourcing and styling. So it's the whole kitty caboodle.
Everything that you need,
everything
basically,
that you need
right,
to
get it right.
For sure.
Okay, super.
And on this page, it's just some of the portfolio images of my current work. So on the top row, I recently did a job on the South Bank with a design friend of mine for INCRESEING, which is a French drinks brand. So we set up this whole area on the South Bank where people could sit down and test the drinks.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So you can see there's a nice pergola area, the arch that people walk through. It's a whole experience. So visual merchandising is theatre. So if you can turn it into an experience as well, then people can experience the brand. It makes it more live.
Yeah, but I think that's actually a very important point, because when people go out to eat, it's not just for the food. It is an experience.
It is an experience.
It's the whole
That's the way
thing.
that I go out and eat. Otherwise, I can just cook at home.
Right.
So I want it to be an experience. I'm about atmosphere as well. I want to pay for good quality food, and I want the atmosphere, and I want the service.
Right.
That's why you pay, and that's why it costs.
Well, precisely.
And so it should.
But there is the point, I guess, there is it makes it at least 50% of the whole eating experience is the atmosphere, is the look, is the environment, And so if you don't get that right, it's not going to work.
Otherwise, it would just be chairs and tables in a window, and you'd see people's feet. And when you're standing outside a cafe or restaurant, you don't want to see that. You want to see an atmosphere. You want to see the brand. Yeah. So you want to feel comfortable, and it's a place that you really want to go.
It needs to be inviting.
It needs to be inviting, definitely. Yeah.
I always look at this very similar to, we do a lot of stuff, as you know, with sort of like helping people get stuff into retail stores and things like that. And it's the same thing, like your front of house is your advertising platform.
It is, definitely. And it's your window, isn't it?
It's your window,
people walk past, because people usually have about 3 seconds when they're walking past anywhere, and they'll just judge, and they'll go yay or nay. I'm even worse. I'll just go, I can just tell within half a second, no.
Well, it's your business.
Yeah, exactly. But
that's
otherwise,
I'm probably a little less fussy than you. But I like to. Sometimes I like sort of the grubbier places because often the food is good. But
exactly.
But I still want a really nice place.
Yes.
Because again, generally I can cook better at home.
Yes, me too. Yeah. And the way you want.
So, the way I want, exactly.
You never know quite what you're going to get.
So there you are. So just there's two people's opinion, and that is the point. Is that is the way that the world works.
Exactly. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle now. So
and that's what this one is all about. So yes.
Yeah. Great. Cool. Okay. So what is visual merchandising? So visual merchandising began as window dressing.
Right.
It's an old skill. So if you think back to Tiffany's in New York. Back then, in the early 1900s, they used to dress their windows, and the window dresser Jean Moore was a set designer. So window dressing actually started as a set design, but then was applied to a retail application.
Okay.
So that's how it...
I didn't know that's actually how it began. I kind of think of watching things like Selfridges on TV.
Well, that's a perfect example, because that was the early 1900s as well.
Yeah.
So that was the same time period, same idea.
So really, it's been around a very, very long time.
Very long time, yes.
Yeah. Okay,
yes.
And again, because when thinking about, if you say to most people, okay, I'm a visual merchandiser, they'll go, what?
What? Yes.
What is that?
A lot of people do know, actually.
Do they really?
They do.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
I think you kind of need to be in retail before you know what it is. It doesn't really stand out.
Yeah, well, I kind of back that up with saying store display, product merchandising, and then going into window dressing, which is an older term for
an older term. Okay.
Yeah.
So what does a visual merchandiser do?
Make things look great. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can take a space and you're just making that space look good. So visual merchandising, so for a department store, it would be the windows. In the old days when I started, it was just windows and the interiors weren't quite so important. Right. But then as everything became a brand, then the interior of the space became just as important as the windows. So traditionally the windows would draw people in. Yeah. People would stand outside the windows and go, wow, marvel at these old school windows. Yeah. But windows have become more simpler these days. But it's the interior that catches people. Yeah. And they hang around a bit longer.
Okay.
So
that's, you want to entice people in.
You want to entice people in, and then you want to keep people in. So, I mean, there's lots of tricks. I try not to use too many tricks because you don't need to. If it looks good and it feels good and it's got a lifestyle-y look and feel about it, then that will keep people there naturally.
Okay. So that, again, it's just important to have it right.
Yes, it's important to have it right. Yeah, because you always, I'd say it's more about attitude than sort of targeting an age group in the market. because someone young or someone older could have the same kind of attitude towards a brand. So I'd say it's more about attitude and feeling rather than, okay, we need to target these people or target those people.
Okay, but you still have some sort of a target. So that's your theme that comes in.
Yeah, for sure. But you could have a family coming into the same space,
of course,
as a student or as an older couple, say.
Okay. So again, they're very much going for the atmosphere and the environment.
Yes.
Okay, so you need to get that right. So
you need to get that right.
Is that step one, is get a good theme?
I think getting a good theme, yes, is right. But you've got to be confident about your theme. So, and as we go through the slides, you'll see more examples and then you can see, what that looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so there we are. Visual merchandiser, a big deal.
Yeah. Okay, so why? Why is the big question? So it's essential in today's modern lifestyle culture. It's an attitude, as I was saying before. It's about bringing theatre into your cafe, restaurant, or your retail area. It's a stage.
Right.
So you need to appeal to like-minded people. You need to engage customers and connect with customers as well.
Right.
So you can turn customers into friends as well, particularly in the restaurant and cafe industry. If you get to know your regular customers, if they're coming in for a coffee each
customer
day,
service is huge,
or once a week to have a weekly meal or whatever, you'll get to know people. So and people get to trust you as well.
Okay.
But also if people are just walking past and they recognise that brand, Carluccio's or whoever, they go, oh yes, they instantly have a feeling about it, so they will go in. So it's kind of like if someone's walking down the street, who do I choose to go to? And so it's that feeling about who you know and who you choose to go to as well. Yeah, and I guess it
depends on what you're looking for. You might want the homely feel, you might want just the quick and get done feel or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, we never just go to one restaurant, do we?
We never. Many. Yeah, and people always say, well, what do you want to eat? Then you'll go, Italian or Chinese or
you'll start with that.
You'll start with that, and then you'll kind of like,
well, which one of those is good in the area?
Yeah, which one of those is good in the area? Or we're walking down the street, okay, there's so and so, who do we choose? It usually takes a while to choose, but people just like resign in the end. They go, okay, well, let's go here.
Well, sure, it's sure, but they will also, they'll have a look at the menu on the outside, but they'll look inside the window. Are there people in there? Does it look busy? Is it a nice decor?
Is it a nice feeling? What's the vibe?
Exactly. Yeah. And if their answer is no to any one of those, they're out.
Just move on.
Even if the food is fantastic.
I mean, I've even gone into somewhere, sat down, and left if I've not been served properly or well.
Right.
And a lot of other people, no, let's just stay here. And I'm like, no, we're leaving. This is not the way it should be. So we're paying for this. Let's go somewhere where we. Yeah.
See, that's the customer services bit of it, but it all ties in. But you have to get them in the door, and the customer service is part of what keeps them.
Yes,
yeah,
definitely,
which is what it
is.
So so the why is a really big reason for people.
Yeah, I mean, you have to make your customers feel special. That's really important.
Okay, and comfortable.
Yes. Well, that's about the atmosphere.
I'm sure you're going to cover this type of thing. Yes. But how do you go about creating a theme, or how do you know what makes people come? I mean, do you start with, okay, well, this is what makes me feel comfortable, and then people who are like you will come, or is there another way?
I mean, your theme will probably come from the type of food that you're serving, or if there's a culture involved with the type of food that you're serving.
Right, okay.
So Carluccio's is Italian, for example.
Yeah.
So there's already there's an Italian feeling in a modern British way about that.
Okay, yeah.
So it usually stems from, I'll always tell people, create a menu, and then you know what food is on the menu, and then you can start to create a feeling around what the menu is as well.
Okay.
But if you've got a very definite look and feel about how you want the environment to look like, well, then that's the road that you go down as well.
Okay.
So it's kind of, it crosses over.
Okay, but be very clear on that. And that's, I guess, the whole brand side of things. And
yes. If you have a brand in mind.
Exactly. And when we were saying around the food, obviously that is obvious. And when you said that, I was like, duh, of course. Of course it's.
But most people don't think about that. People have. I always say to people, it's not your home, it's a business. So don't treat it like it's your home, it's a business.
Yeah.
And so don't do what you would do at home, it's a business.
Right.
So people are coming into a business So you've got to like cancel out whatever you think, oh, well, that would look nice at home. No, it's not your home.
No.
People
okay.
aren't coming to your home unless it's a really simple home style kind of family laid back environment. That's a different focus.
And I guess it's how you want customers to be. Do you want them like in and out quickly?
Yes.
Or do you want them to stay and order an extra couple of bottles of wine or whatever?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you're going to need to know how you're going to sell to them,
yes.
which will help you figure out how to lay
sure.
things out and what sort of furnishings to use and that
yes.
kind of thing.
Yes.
So there's a lot of thought that needs to go into that.
Yeah, so it can be a homey feel, it can be an industrial feel. You can base it on, you know, a country of origin, all sorts of things.
Okay.
So, but you have to have a clear focus around those things.
Okay. And how do, like, is there a way for people to do that, or is it just kind of like, well, I kind of want to do this? Like, I mean, obviously you have a lot of experience, and so you know.
Yeah.
But for instance, we come across a lot of people who are getting into the restaurant trade for the first time.
Right.
They generally don't really realize how much they're biting off. But,
yes.
you know, and they go, okay, I've got, you know, 15 grand for a fit out. I'm going to do, this is what I can afford.
Yeah.
And I think it looks great, but they haven't really they haven't really looked at the whole package, like why are they doing what they're doing? What does it mean to put that sofa there? What does it mean to put that counter there? You know, they haven't thought about it, and very often they're going, oh, it doesn't work. We're not getting the flow through that we need, and they can't understand why, because to them it looks nice.
It looks nice.
Which I guess is that home thing that you're talking about.
But it needs to work as well.
Needs to
work as a space.
So how does somebody who doesn't have any experience in that go for that? What's your advice on that?
Well, it's probably best if you look at your competitors as well.
Okay.
So go and look at what other people are doing. Mm-hmm. So if you are sort of want an Asian feel, go and see what people are doing maybe in that realm. Maybe people are doing in an old school family way, or people are doing in a more simpler modern way as well. So go and eat somewhere as well and see how people are doing something. And don't be afraid to take notes. Look at people's websites. I'm really big on doing a mood board, like an old school mood board, where you.
I don't think it's old school though. I think it's very new.
It is very new as well.
Not new, but
people don't
relevant.
think about look and feel and branding and how important it all really is. You've got to be operational, but you've also got to have the brand, and the feeling is just as important as well.
Okay.
So most people who go into business just think, oh my God, I've got to operate. Yes, but you've got to think like a customer. So you've got to step back, stand outside and pretend you're a customer as well.
Right.
Walk into your premises, pretend you're a customer.
Yeah.
It's really important to do that as well. But putting a mood board together as well of other brands that you like and images that you like. When you put images together on a screen, or you cut things out and just put them together and stick them together, you can see a bit of a pattern coming together. So you might like, there might be some colours that you like, or certain design features that you like, and that type of thing. And you probably wouldn't have thought of that unless you went, oh, I'm putting it all together.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, well, help yourself. Let's start working on, I would always do a mood board for people as well. Okay. Even if I was putting different features together, and furniture, and customer uniform is really important as well.
Yeah.
Tables and chairs, all these different things. I would put a mood board together for all these things, laid out in front of a client, and say, okay, this is where we're at. These are the colours that you like. Maybe I would go for this instead. But if you lay things out in front of people, then they can see, oh, right, okay, so that's the picture that's coming together of how it can look. And a lot of people aren't visual as well. So you're talking to people, but they're not visual. They can't see it. So you've got to put it in front of them. And
right.
even when you put it in front of them, they can see it, but they may not quite get it.
Right.
So it helps if you're visual, for sure. But if you're not, then you need to see it in front of you.
Yeah.
And with someone like me, I'll only tell you what I know you need to know. So there's a bit of a trust factor that comes into it as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's very understandable, because that happens in everything. I mean, if you're going to present, it doesn't matter what your project is, even a tech project, you have to present what you're going to do. Yes. You have to show them. They have to get the buy-in and understand and get where you're coming from. And they won't listen to you unless it's along the lines of where they're going anyway.
Yes.
So, I guess obviously you have to work around them.
Yeah.
But I love that point about, putting yourself in the shoes of the customer. We do this without even thinking every day when we go and get our coffee and go get our Italian or whatever.
Yeah.
And we don't really look, we know the place is nice, but we don't necessarily know why.
Why?
We don't necessarily notice that, there was a painstaking process of deciding
What's
to put those props over there.
Yes.
put that window
Yeah.
display there and whatever. We just walk in and go, oh, this place looks nice. It's
Nice.
friendly. It's got
Yeah,
a nice
yeah, yeah.
atmosphere. Blah blah.
Yeah,
I'm happy.
yeah.
But we don't necessarily know why.
No.
And that's, I think, why a lot of people getting into restaurant trade go, oh well, it should be quite easy. But
Yes.
when you
No.
have to take yourself
Yeah.
out of that and look at the flow going through.
Yeah.
And I really like that advice as well about going and sitting in other people's restaurants and taking notes.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
buy a coffee, they won't mind.
Yeah, they don't mind.
They
yeah.
really don't mind. But also, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
No, you don't.
Restaurants have been
No.
around for
Don't
a very long
copy,
time.
but you don't need to reinvent the wheel
Yeah.
either. And you can keep it simple. Like maintenance is very important. Like when you set something up, you've got to look after it as well. So everything needs to be maintained and everything needs to be presentable all the time. So if you can, it can look really good, but if you can keep it simple at the same time,
Right.
because everything that you do will cost you your time in your business every day. So you need to operate, but you also need to look good the whole time as well, because it's you have to think like your customer again, because it's your customer that's judging you all the time. You're probably standing back going, oh, well, I'm so busy over here doing this. You're not really thinking about something that's happening over there. But if you let a display get messy, or the tables and chairs aren't lined up, or something like that, then that can all just let go. And yeah.
And people notice it, but they don't
People-
necessarily know why.
But it
Yeah.
affects you need to be in charge and you need to be in control.
Okay.
And if you're not, then you're not. Your business is 100% everything that is in that space, not just, oh, I need to order food and I need to operate and I need to serve customers. It's everything in that space. So
Okay.
you need to be in charge of, understand and look after everything.
Okay, it's a lot of subliminal messaging going on here, really, isn't there? I mean, when you think about it, it really is.
It is. Well, that is your business and
Yeah.
you're investing a lot of money into it and yourselves into it. So, yes.
So think about these
Think
things.
about these
Think
things.
about these things.
Yeah.
Very good advice. Very good advice.
Okay, so we were talking about competitors, and here's some brands. So Coluccio's I've spoken to a lot, so I won't talk too much about Coluccio's because we can go on to that a bit further as well. You can see Caffè Nero on the bottom there. So most people know Caffè Nero, they're all around the UK. So I worked with them for 5 years. And they wanted to bring they headhunted me from Coluccio's actually, and they wanted to bring a more artisanal look and feel into their cafes, because they were very brown chairs and tables, brown counter, brown food. It's all very brown, and so apart from the logo, which was blue, so they wanted to bring in a more artisanal sort of independent cafe feel into their brand.
Okay, so that's kind of like, when you think brown, I kind of think of like, you know what I mean, I guess the House of Commons or something with the big leather chairs and very old school type of a
It's
scenario.
boring. It's very boring.
Right.
Boring.
And dark.
Yeah. And dark. Very dark. Very dark. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they brought you in to do that. So that's what it looked like essentially. It was just. So does that mean with all the brown that it just wasn't a lot of atmosphere? I mean.
It was just, there wasn't a lot of atmosphere because it all looked plain. It was all very basic looking as well. Very simple catering. There wasn't any sort of individual attention to detail about anything.
Okay.
So we brought a more artisanal sort of look and feel. And when I say artisanal, you can think about Bill's. So when you look at the left-hand side of the screen, Bill's started off in Brighton, and now they're everywhere as well.
They are, yeah.
So Bill's have that more home-style cafe, artisanal look and feel, lots of wood, lots of products on show. A nice contemporary lifestyle feeling about them as well.
They're very sort of country homey.
A little bit country homey, but in a modern kind of way. A little bit like Jamie's as well. So you can see Jamie's recipe stores. Now, I'm not sure if he has any of those left now, but they were a really. I keep it here on this slide because it was a really interesting concept, because he wanted to bring people in and get them to understand food more. So there's a retail space, there was a cafe, there was an event space, and they would have cooking school in there as well.
Right.
So so there was one in Clapham and there was one in Notting Hill as well. So they were really interesting spaces.
Okay.
And Bill started off just being a delicatessen with a few chairs and tables, and then they realised that people really wanted to sit down and have that experience of Bill's. So they really reduced the retail side down, and it became like 70-80% cafe, and people would line up out the door. Yeah.
Well, that's what you definitely want, is people lining up out the door. That is always a good sign when that happens.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, so Coluccio's. So they unconsciously became a brand because of Antonio. And I went in to help them with their visual merchandising because they were unconsciously a brand, and the brand always came first. So they operated, and they were very good at operating, but everyone in the business knew that they were a brand, and that came first, which meant look and feel coupled with customer service. And with Carluccio's, the retail space covered about 20% of the floor area, and the cafe restaurant side of it was about 80%.
Okay.
But when you think of it as a brand, as we were talking about, when people look and feel, do I want to go in there? The retail area and the counter was at the front, and we would have a promotional area at the front of the cafe as well.
So that's what people would see.
So people would see that when they walked in, and that would attract people. And so again, there was this subtle feeling, even though the business took 80% of their takings on the restaurant side, from a brand perspective and how the customer was drawn into the environment, it was a 50-50 split of, well, we need to do this for the brand, and that's how we get people in. So it was okay that it was an 80-20% split with the retail side.
I mean, marketing is generally, if you just take any business, it's like 30% of your expenses will be marketing, or should be roughly marketing.
Yes.
Sometimes it's a lot more.
Yes.
But so an 80-20 is actually doing not too bad
Not
at
doing
all
too bad.
From that perspective.
Yeah.
And plus, if you don't have the visual at the front, you won't get the people in the back.
No, you won't. No, and it would just be chairs and tables, which is boring.
Okay.
So yeah, so you can see on the screen there's lots of different images there. There's a rail hanging in the window with some garlic hanging off it and some utensils. We would have, every store was very specific with the way that the displays worked in them, and then we would have a promotional tables on the right hand side. That's the Chiswick Cafe. So so we had a takeaway as well, so you can see all the products are out on that table as well, and there was fresh bread and wine and olive oil. So it's just this lifestyle feeling that just brings it all together.
And obviously everything on the retail side was for sale, of course.
Everything was for sale.
Everything
of course.
was for sale and used in the cooking when you were there. Right?
Not all the products, but some of them, yes.
Okay.
But the menu would change. So from a marketing perspective, every season. So on the bottom photo, you can see there's a small menu was there. So every season that would change, because in Italy everything is regional and food works around the seasons.
Right.
So the menu would change. It's not like in fashion, like it changes every season.
Well, sure.
So yeah, so they had the same approach, and because they were Italian with a modern British feel, it was very natural for them to do that as well. But that tied into their marketing, it tied into their website. There'd be a new menu on the table each season. So again, in the retail area, that would all tie in with the promotions as well. Everything would tie in and just flow nicely together.
And that's also an important part as well, because we also see a lot of that, where you want there's always going to be seasonality, but also people want different types of food at different times of the year.
Yes.
So just even from that point of view, you need to change your menu around anyway. And also, if you want regulars, they want the stuff that they always like, because they chose carefully when they came in, but they also want to try new stuff. They want to see that things are changing, because if it's the same thing, they get bored.
They do get bored, and this country, asparagus is only in for a short period of time. Figs have just come into season in the autumn now. So there's different types of food that you can pick up at different times of year and create a dessert around that, or a course around that, or something, and that can tie into your marketing and everything as well.
Okay, and I think that's an important thing. So when you're looking at this, not okay, I have my look done, I'm finished now for the next year or two, or whatever. It's not like it's a constant change, a constant flow. So I mean, do you do things like you probably do based on what you just said, but where you're looking sort of a year or so ahead?
You need to have a marketing calendar,
right?
Ideally, have a marketing calendar, and with your plan for the year, even if it's the 4 seasons and Easter, Valentine's Day, Christmas, that type of thing. Just have those slotted in there so you know where they are, and then prepare yourself a month or 2 in advance, as they're coming up.
Right.
So,
and so know how you're going to change the
know
look.
how you're going to change. Yes, exactly. And even if you're buying your food from a market on a weekly or a daily basis, and you are changing your menu, you can think, oh, I know that's coming into season. Talk to your market trader, talk to whoever, and find out what's going on, what's happening when it's happening, so you can prepare your menus as well.
Okay, so if you don't have a chef that's doing these bits for you, which a lot of small cafes don't, this is a great way to do it. So just think about what your mum would serve you, I guess, to a degree. Do you know what I mean? Like in the winter, no, seriously, like, but in the winter, I'd like soup in a cafe and a sandwich. I don't want that in the summer.
Yeah, a nice toasty or something.
Yeah, exactly. So there are some very simple changes that you can make, but I guess the point is that you have to visually see that. People go, oh, it's and it kind of sparks.
Well, it's kind of like you put your summer clothes away and you bring your winter clothes out.
Right.
It's a kind of, that
kind of idea.
Yeah, exactly, as well. But you can't get behind yourself. You need to work in advance for that to work properly.
Okay, so have a plan in advance.
Yeah, think of timelines, think of deadlines. If you want to get something printed, it might take a week or two to get something printed, or if you're having it designed, you might need to work a month in advance to get that done, and then do your food preparation at the same time. So you need to be juggling a few things at the same time to get all of these things.
So I mean, again, not terribly different to what you'd see in many other businesses, but the point is that you have to be thinking all the time.
Be prepared. And
changing things and making sure that it fits in. Now, I just had another question, actually. Sorry, people, but I do this. You know this.
You're learning too.
Well, I just, these questions come up, and it's a nice one. So, I mean, obviously as well, for instance, most people, of course, have one cafe or one restaurant, but then as they grow, the idea is obviously to open a chain or more or whatever.
Yes.
Now, obviously, Carlucci has done that. Obviously, Bill's has done that. Obviously, Nero has done it. So all of them have done it. And you had just mentioned there about making it fit in. So, of course, the layout of each different shop will be different, right? Because the dimensions of the floor space will be different. So you can't have a one-size-fits-all, can you?
No, you can't. But you can still put the same feeling into the space. So don't let the space dictate the feeling. You can still put the same feeling into a space. So maybe you had you moved into an old bank or something like that.
Right.
Retain those features, but put your modern furnishings or whatever your furnishing is, put your stamp into it, but it still needs to fit and it still needs to flow.
Okay, so each shop floor, if you like, is going to be different, but have the same feel, because that's the brand that you're talking about.
Yes. If you had a very simple modern space, which is completely empty, that might be harder actually, because then you're putting everything in there from scratch. So don't be afraid of something heritage. You can use it to your advantage. Don't be afraid of an existing business that you buy, because they may already have a counter there. They may already have chairs and tables. You might want to get rid of those and bring your own in. But you can update things as well. So you can save money by updating what's already there as well if you want to. Okay, well that's good. But put your own stamp on it.
Put your stamp on it. And also, do you advise people as well on what type of a unit to get? Because obviously people go, okay, well there needs to be good footfall. Well, obviously there needs to be good footfall.
Yes, definitely.
But you can't have a pokey little tiny thing that you can only fit 2 counters in. That's not.
No, you need to think about what you want to do in the space.
Right.
How many covers you want to have in the space as well.
Right.
So yeah, you do think
you need
about.
To think about that.
Yes, for sure, definitely.
I think it's a lot of people don't think about that. It's like, okay, I can spend 30,000 on rent this month, not this month, but this year, and then I have rates on top of that and whatever. So my space was going to be this. But very often what they don't think of is like, okay, well I can only fit 4 tables in, and that's 8 or 10 people at a time. That's I need a lot of flow through to make this work.
Yeah, I mean, how much room is your back of house and your kitchen going to take up?
Right.
How much space is your counter going to take up? So you need to think operationally, but you also need to think about
the logistics.
The logistics, front of house, what's happening, and customers being comfortable as well. So you do need to think about the planning within the space as well. But you can look at any existing business, like the good ones, and you can see how they're making it work as well.
Yes. Okay.
So and that will give you a good idea as well.
Okay, because that flow through is important.
Really important. Yeah, we'll talk about more of that as we go on as well.
Okay.
So this is the promotional table at Carluccio's. Again, this is all about food seasons. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see Christmas. In the middle, that was a spring summertime display. And on the right-hand side, that display was centered around olive oils and pastas. Now, we were talking about different look and feel. So these are all 3 different locations. So the one on the right hand side is an older look and feel with a slightly more industrial look. In the background you can see the shelving there. It's called Metro shelving. It's that silver industrial type shelving which was very popular in the 2000s. So you still see it around a lot. In the middle there we decided to create this new wooden display that we could put on the promotional table. Now in that middle photo it's actually in the window, whereas on the two photos either side the promotional table is in the middle of the retail space. So again, it depends on your space and how you want to use that space as well.
Okay, but you can see that it really talks just by how it's put together. Talks. I mean, on the left, you know, Christmas. It's red. Do you know what I mean?
Gold.
Well, gold, but there's also a lot of red in there, which is a very Christmassy kind of colour, isn't it?
Yeah, for that theme, that was again there was a lot of marketing and design around all that packaging as well. So yeah, that was
a lot of stuff.
They're all major themes for all those different promotions.
Okay, and so the middle one then is sort of more homey and earthy. Because you've got the herbs and you have the wood. That kind of stuff.
But with that wooden display on the window bench there that you can see, all we had to do was change the poster in the center and the props and the products in the shelving around it, and then just add a few new products around it. So we still had a theme each time, but because we had lots of cafes that we had to dress, it was easier for the delicatessen staff to dress it themselves from photos that I would send out to them. And then I would go around, or my assistant would go around and make sure that it was all in situ. So and in that middle section you can see there's a tea towel which we produced for that promotion that was hanging off. So there's a bit more sort of a lifestyle kind of homey feeling about it. We've got some basil plants that people could buy. So that instantly gives it a look and a feel. And there's some wooden crates down the bottom with vegetables in them. So it gives it that market kind of feel instantly. So
simple stuff, and I mean again, you know, wooden crates, not the most expensive thing in the world. Basil plants, not the most expensive thing in the world. So you know, I guess the point, I mean, it doesn't always have to cost, you know, 15 grand.
No, of course not. No. And you can keep these different things on you and bring them out, put them away, bring them out for different promotions as well. But you need to think of like height as well. So you can see that there's different heights on these tables, the way that we've grouped the different products together as well. So there's baskets.
So how do you know what to do though? So what goes well together? I mean, because it's kind of like, you know, mixing what could, like if you're looking at a food plate, you know, there's certain things that you'll put together. Is it the same here?
Well, on the left hand side for Christmas, we've got a lot of gift boxes. So they're in bulk around the bottom of the table. And then there's some nice sort of little trays and some sort of higher tables with sort of smaller feature items on there. So it just depends on the products that you have as well. But keep things together in a space. Keep it neat, keep it simple, keep it tidy, and everything needs to have a price or a label on it as well. Because people are obviously price conscious. They want to pick something up or just see the price and go, well, that looks good. Yeah, I like that. $5.95, perfect little gift. So, you know, you need to do the work for your customer and keep it neat and tidy as well.
Make it simple. And that pricing is important, because I've often not bought things because
I'm the same all the time. If you can't be bothered, why should the customer be bothered?
Right.
And it's amazing how often you will lose sales because you haven't been bothered. Yeah.
You don't want to do that. I mean, margins are so tight in sort of.
You can't leave anything. To it, because it's not going to happen by itself. You've got to do it. Or bring someone in.
So that means, I mean, pricing it sounds obvious, but it's amazing what you would forget, isn't it?
Yeah. People just don't have prices on shelves. And or find someone in your business who's a little bit creative and give them that job as well. And you can give them some guidance, or you know, but have someone who can focus. If you don't have the time, find someone that can help you to, you know, make that happen as well. I think you'll always find someone who enjoys or thinks they're a bit creative and enjoys doing that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So we had a lot of merchandising in Carluccio's, and again, lots of different types of shelving in there. So the industrial Metro shelving down on the bottom. On the right hand side, a newer style of some simple wooden shelving, and on the bottom you can see some headings of the different categories. So we had categories for the products as well. So that always helps to identify when someone walks into a space. little bit like a supermarket where they have on the aisles.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're there when you're trying to look for something, or you're in
Right.
Boots. Where's eye care? I need my solution for my, like where is
Yeah.
there, or a toothbrush?
But they purposely, I mean, supermarkets certainly do this, where they move the layouts around a lot to make
Yes.
you look for things so that you
Yes.
discover new products.
Yes, true. But you need to make it simple for your customer so they know where things are. It's another way of looking after them as well.
Okay.
So, and on the left-hand side, down the bottom, it's a more contemporary kind of look and feel. In the top photo on the left-hand side, there's actually a more open space up in Manchester, Trafford. It was a whole open-air type cafe, and the shelving was actually sort of like a see-through wall almost. So that always had to look good back and front all the time.
Okay.
So you can see that you can make it work in different types of spaces, the same type of merchandising.
Okay, so I mean, a lot of people will not have this in their cafes, but I suppose there are things that you can do. For instance, if you have a bit of, shelving space,
Yeah, a
behind
smaller
seat,
version of it.
Yeah, you can put sort of wine that you're going to be selling, so
exactly.
people can see it, because that visual is very important. And even if you're making, I mean, look at the products on the shelf. There's a lot of work that just goes into each one of those.
Well, there's a lot of
products.
planogramming and merchandising that goes into spatially where everything is, and that's one reason for categories as well.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
And also I see here that, with a lot of this shelving here, it's full.
Yes, very full.
There's no empty space.
Needs to be maintained.
But that's just more the look of it. But
yes,
it
needs to be maintained.
People want to see that there's lots of things available, don't
they? Yes, definitely. And you need to keep merchandising all the time. So if there is a space, just move something over, or get something else out from the stock room and replenish as well.
So keeping an eye, another thing to keep an eye on.
We have to keep an eye on it all the time. It's like, I'm proud, I'm looking after it. That's how you make people buy. If it looks full and if it's neat and tidy and creative and busy, then people will buy into that as well.
Okay.
So, and we have displays. So on the top shelf, you can see there's small displays as well. Just a small grouping of a few products, and that presents it as well. Because people will look from the top down as well. So that just helps to sort of capture the look and the feel of everything as well.
Okay.
Okay, Cafe Nero. So most of these photos on this page are in Heathrow. So when Heathrow T2 opened, Cafe Nero had 3 cafes in all those different spaces. So the one on the bottom right hand side where we're talking is a much busier area where people would pass through. It was actually a double-sided counter, and you could enter from the right or the left-hand side, but we duplicated both sides. And as you walked into the counter area, you would walk past a display, which was like our little window, and set up the sort of feeling. And then there would be a fridge with your sandwiches and your drinks and what have you. And then you walk into the counter, and then you would see cakes in front of you, and there would be the menu, and you could see what coffee you wanted to order as well. Okay. So there's always a little bit of a process.
It's a flow.
It's a flow, really.
Yeah. I think that's important as well, because I see a lot of people who are like, they don't lay out things in the right way, so it's difficult for people to get through. They have to walk all the way through the cafe to get to the takeaway.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that means people sitting down, have people constantly banging around.
Yes.
So and also, because I would imagine Heathrow is quite busy.
Very busy.
You had two counters where people could be served at 2 times. Was that because of speed?
Speed and service as well. Because in the airports, you would have a real rush of people for an hour or an hour and a half, and then it would go a bit quiet. Because that's when planes are coming in or planes are leaving. So it's that you need to think about that customer flow as well, particularly in that environment. Well,
I guess the rush before work, the 11 o'clock one,
same thing.
You know what I mean? Just before lunch, that type of thing. So there's always that ebb and flow. It's kind of a natural sort of daily seasonality in restaurants, isn't it? Well, cafes anyway.
And don't bombard people when they walk into a space. You need to give people a little bit of a landing space, so when they walk in, they can go for a second before they're like confronted with everything. And because people want to look around, where do I want to sit? What do I want to order? Or do I want some cake? People like to think. Don't just like shout at people. What can I get you? People want a little bit of time to look around, and people want to know that they're being looked after. Just say hi, how you going? But people want to look around and kind of like survey.
Get the lay of the land.
Yeah, get the lay of the land, so to speak.
Okay. And I see with this one as well, just looking at the seating area here, there's lots of space between the seating.
Yes.
Was that because of the volume of people coming through?
Well, you need to think about buggies, you need to think about wheelchairs, but it's just kind of the look and the feel as well. So there's different type of seatings. It was quite a large space, and so there was different environments created. So on the left-hand side, you can see a much higher table, which was closer to the counter. So if you just wanted to sit down for 10-20 minutes and have a quick coffee and then scoot off, you could sit there quite easily, or do some work on your laptop or something. Or if you were a family, you could move down the back where there's some more comfortable seating. So there was different type of seating in that layout as well.
Okay, so basically what you were doing was looking at the different types of people that usually come in and giving them all the space to go.
Yeah, creating areas.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not just one huge expanse of a space, because that would be quite boring, really.
Okay, so not always possible depending on the size of your place, but I suppose you will have sort of the takeout area if you're a cafe.
Yes.
You will have sort of the quick grab kind of a thing, and then you will have sort of the seated area, or the, if you can, the counter at the window and stuff like that, which allows you to get more people in.
Yes.
So you can still apply a lot of this type of thing.
You can,
even
definitely.
if you don't have a big massive open space.
Yeah. You can have a display in your window, which can be your display, but you can serve from that window space as well. So it can have a dual purpose too.
Okay, right. So again, it's that thinking about what is the purpose of all of this? How are we going to get it through?
Yes.
And I particularly liked the idea in the past with this, I suppose, this slide here, where you had the ability for lots of people to be served in a quick space of time, because that's very important, particularly for cafes. It's always the volume of things of people.
Move people along. Move people along. Don't let people just like stand there. Get people to take their order. Yeah, and move people along to the end of the counter to pick up their drink, or tell them to sit down, we'll bring it over to you. If you see a queue, get it moving. If you don't see a queue, you can spend a bit more time with that customer. Yes. So think about, don't be robotic about things, which is a lot of people can be very easily.
Right.
Just think about who's in the space and how you're looking after them.
Okay, and important, because I mean things like queues, I turn around.
You can always go somewhere else unless you really need to go to that place.
Right.
I never line up for food. Why would you line up for food? You can go to so many places.
Yes.
Unless it's a favourite.
That's different, you know. But I guess it's important to do that, and to have that thought process as how are people going to move through your space.
Yes. And I want to get to that comfortable seat at the back as well.
Yes.
So I've got my eye on that seat that I want, and if the queue's just not going anywhere, it's like, well, do I go and sit down and put my stuff there and reserve it and come back in the queue? What do I do?
Right.
So, if you think like that anyway, so which
everybody does.
A lot of people do.
Well, no, that's a lot of people do. So absolutely. Sure. So good information here.
Yeah. So we had with the food in Cafe Nero, every single detail was thought about. So paninis was the main food offer that would be toasted, but we had a lot of different food in the fridge, which people would see first before they moved onto the counter. So the picture on the right hand side is the counter from Heathrow, which we were just talking about. So in that centre area between those two columns is where people would queue, and then you would go left or you would go right. So again, it's repeating what we had on offer. So in the trough area, you can see there's small grab and go things. In the glass area, you can see that there's cake. So if you go back to the previous slide, you'll see an image there with all the cakes and the pastries. So that's like the window again. It's to invite people, but it's that flow of, well, am I going to have something to go with my coffee or not? And so people would go left or they would go right, and then they could move down the counter as well, or they could go and get their seat and come back for their coffee, whatever they wanted to do.
Okay.
So you need to think about where you're placing things as well. And on the bottom there in the middle, there was crisps and popcorn. So just think about those grab and go items, where they're being placed as well. And the fridge on the left hand side. So when I joined Cafe Nero, the first project that we worked on in the marketing and the brand department, and also with the commercial department, because everything feeded in with commerciality and sales, was their fridge. And it was just a silver box, basically.
Right.
So your usual cold looking steel fridge box, that's what it was. So we turned it into a more artisanal look and feel. So we did that through marketing. So with the poster that you can see on the left-hand side, and we took images of the panini. I mean, this is a brand that really knew what they wanted to do. Right. This is the way to get the customer focus and to talk about the product as well. And so on the top of the fridge and the bottom, you can see some vinyl. So we had those printed, which was part of the marketing, and that disguised the silver boxness look of the fridge. On two of the shelves where the paninis are, we had wooden trays, which the paninis sat on, which helped to give them a more artisanal look and feel.
Okay.
The actual paninis, we changed some of the recipes, and we redesigned all of the packaging. So the fridge is laid out in a very specific way. So you can see sandwiches on the top, paninis on the two middle trays, shelves, which are more in your sight of your eye line. On the next shelf down, there's soup on the left-hand side for winter, and then it went into some breakfast items, and then into some juices, and then on the bottom shelf was all drinks. So you just need to think about your planogramming if you're going down this road as well. So everything was planogrammed so they could keep track of all the sales as well.
Okay, so I mean, talking about sort of like visual, like boxes and things, or wooden platters, I suppose they're putting things on. Again, not going to break the bank to put that in, but that's a simple little change that makes a big difference. It makes it a much warmer feel,
yes,
which in a fridge is quite interesting, actually.
Very interesting,
and also the fact that, I mean, okay, so Nero is at a space where they're able to rebrand all of the packaging. Now, the smaller cafes, that's probably not going to happen. It's going
but you would still have a fridge.
You will.
So think about those brands that you're buying in. You know, just don't buy in anything. You know, think about if you want a more sort of artisanal, independent brand that does really cool juices or really cool salad pots or something. You know, you can still think about that. And, you know, think about it in that way as well.
And because, I mean, it looks like, I mean, all the colours match up.
Yes.
You know, it's very...
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, this is very, I mean, we set this up and presented it to management basically and said, ta-da, this is your new fridge. And everyone that went, wow. Because before they would just order whatever they wanted and put it wherever they wanted. There's no order to it. There's no order around it. They couldn't keep track of sales. And because there's such big budgets around having food produced, they wouldn't know how the factory wouldn't know how many sandwiches needed to be produced for the orders that would be coming in every other day.
Told them what they were selling.
Well, it depends if you have that system in place as well.
Right, so it's just bought a sandwich, not this particular sandwich.
Yeah. So it was centered around, you know, ordering as well and getting that whole commercial process from back of house to front of house.
And that side of things is very important as well, because not everything that you sell is going to sell. There will be things that people are more popular.
Yeah, of course.
And
there's always going to be more popular things, and you need to try things out as well. And you need to think vegetarian or vegan as well, and have a few more niche products in there.
And the gluten one is a big one.
Gluten is huge. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely huge.
Yeah,
so I mean, the thing about it is this goes far beyond just how things look. It's the operations in the background as well. And without this sort of information, you're going to find it very difficult. You're not going to know what's selling well, what's selling well.
You need to keep track of that.
Yes, and also how you lay it out. If it's easy, like you said, the top two shelves, it's at people's eye line. So basically, they don't have to bend down and poke in around the back. It's just easy, bang, there it is, I'm going to have that.
And people will naturally grab a drink, and that's on the bottom shelf. So you really don't need to think about
that. It's the complementaries though.
It's the complement, yeah. And everything has a price as well. So you can see there's a black strip on every shelf as well, which we fitted out. And then there's a price label which would slide into those strips as well. So we did everything for the customer that we could with a price, a little bit of information, any allergy information on those labels as well. Sometimes we would talk about a certain panini and have a label with a bit more information. And again, the information on the poster on the left-hand side, which is on a nice art easel again, gave a bit more information about the work that actually went into the paninis and how they would be better from a competitor, for example.
Okay, so building the want. And I'm just looking here at the actual counter. Now, the counter of Nero, I mean, obviously it's what we would say fairly standard these days, because I say a lot of people have used this anyway for this flow side of things. But one of the things that I like about Nero that they have done quite well, because we spend a lot of time trying to get help people get more sales.
Right.
And this ties in directly with what you're saying, but also it's like if somebody comes in from a coffee, they'll go, would you like a croissant with that as well?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and then
Yes.
there's lots of lovely
Yes.
things that look nice. So the amount of people that you see that were just coming in for coffee and then they go, ooh, I think
Yeah.
I'll have that.
Yeah.
Now those little complementaries bring up the
that
sales.
pound. Yeah, so
It really makes a big
yeah,
difference.
so all the small things in the trough area above those wooden drawers, you know, £1, £1.50, £2, £2.50. You know, do I want a couple of biscuits or a little bit of chocolate or something for my kid? You know, it's that kind of thing. So if they've looked in the fridge, no, or cake, no, crisps, no. You're putting it in front of their face. You're not forcing anybody to do anything, but it's
Right.
those extra little things. You'd be surprised, an extra pound here and there will really help. And even when I've had my own sort of retail businesses and you have those other smaller things, people are more likely to buy something smaller for £1 or £2, and that money all adds up, rather than people buying something for £10, £10. It's that £1-2 thing where people will go, yeah, I'll have a little biscuit or a little bit of something with my tea or coffee.
Right, and that's what makes the difference.
Yes, that's what makes a difference.
Okay,
Yeah.
so think about that, guys, is I guess the point. It's the complementary products that you put together
Sure.
that makes a huge difference to the bottom line.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, always will. And we had displays in Cafe Nero as well. So their back bar was based on a traditional Italian-looking bar. So if you've been to Italy and you've seen the really nice old cafe spaces that they have these really nice wooden bars. So we had our marketing in there, and we had some very nice simple displays in there as well. So on the right hand side you can see that there's a nice wooden trug branded that we had coffee in. There's a nice glass jar there which we put biscotti inside of, and we would change that out depending on the season. You could put some fruit in there, or some baubles for Christmas, that type of thing.
Okay.
And then we had a coffee Hessian sack printed, and that just had some coffee beans. It was stuffed with something fake, and there's coffee beans in a wooden scoop in there as well.
Okay.
So that just gives a nice kind of look and feeling, because we roasted our own beans as well.
Okay.
So it just gave a nice look and feeling around everything too.
Okay, so you can see, and also you can see the display boards in the back. They give you all the prices. It's very clear. You can see exactly what you're and it's, the text is big.
Yes.
Very often I see when people have
Really
chalkboards, it's hard to read them sometimes, depending on how people have, you know, you need sort of the block letters, don't you? So because people like me who didn't bring their glasses. No, really.
Yeah, exactly.
So just to make that side of things, and that's again when you're talking about the pricing as well, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you're doing the work for the customer.
You're doing the work for the
easy.
customer, yeah. And on the wooden shelving, you can see that there's some graphics as well. So there's some printed material which harks back to what the promotion is, or the season for that time of year is at the time, and just picks up on maybe a cake or a panini that's in the fridge. And on the counter, you can see there's some more marketing material on the left-hand side. And the card that will be stamped is there as well. There's a few little chocolates in that coffee cup. So all these little things on the counter are just important little add-ons and just information for the customer as well.
Okay.
But keep it simple, keep it neat, and it's just all there. But people need to pay as well. So you can see that the pay system is just slightly underneath, so that was easy to get to as well.
Easy
so
for
you need,
staff to get to.
You need to think about.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So you need to think operationally, but you need to think about presentation as well. So be a customer, stand back and look at what the customer sees.
Okay.
So you can see the cake fridge, a little bit of the cake fridge on the left hand side. We had really nice cake plates that we had printed as well with the cake on there. We put nice wooden trays into those shelving that you see next that had all the pastries on it, and we lined the tray with some nice tissue paper with our branding on it. So all these little things,
right, they really add up, don't they?
With the look and feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it tells a story as well, so it's telling a story.
Okay. Yeah.
And this was a more of a dated store, but we put all the new elements into this store as well. So it really gives it a really nice look and feel. Yeah, it freshens the look, really nice look and feel. So we used a lot of wood, and so the color palette was wood and black with anything that we had made out of metal. And then on the top of that cake fridge, you can see that there's a cake dome. So that's actually polycarbonate dome, which I designed. So we couldn't use glass a lot. If you're in an independent cafe, you can use glass a lot more because you're probably working at a different pace and you can look after it a lot better. But in a situation like Nero, glass is a little more dangerous because you're picking it up, you're putting it down, you're picking it up, you're putting it.
You don't want chips of glass
don't
going
want
into
chip
the cake,
glass.
do you?
No, exactly, no. And again, you see everything is priced. So on the front of those wooden trays, we had a price for everything as well. So you just think about all of these things. And in the wooden shelves next to the coffee machine, you can see some glass jars. They had tea in them. And then next to there is bottles of syrup as well. So you can make your operational look like a display as well.
Okay.
So you can tie that through.
Well, I think that idea I think will help with a lot of people because again, Nero is fine. They are at a point now where they can afford to pay for the space, but a lot of people can't. And so, when they're looking at they have to tie everything in. They don't have like wall space where they can just hang stuff.
But you can still have some simple shelves and have a few neat rows of things. If that's your operational items that you need to get to, you can still make it look good.
Okay, it's good advice.
Okay, so on to Contralbane. So I worked with them on a freelance basis, and they're mostly based in London, with a few stores dotted around the country now. So they actually call their cafes canteens because they have a Middle Eastern background, and the retail area they called a souk, which is quite natural for the way that they would operate in their own country.
Okay.
But again, with Carluccio's, this was with a modern British feel. So it's bringing that kind of attitude and that feel and that feeling through. So these images on this page are all from John Lewis on Oxford Street, actually. It's on the 4th floor.
Really, yeah?
Yeah, so you wouldn't know that from looking from the outside. But on the 4th floor is the children's wear department, I believe. So you've got a lot of people coming through, naturally anyway. And John Lewis has a lot of different restaurants on different floors anyway.
Okay.
So if you were beelining to go there, or if you were just walking past, let's have a sit down and a break, or let's have lunch, then you could go there as well.
Good to put that in the kids section because the kids always drive you mad and they're tired and you want something to feed them but also just to relax. So because that's a good idea.
Yeah. So with comptoir, we always just call it comptoir, which means counter in French. So it was very colourful. So lots of orange and yellow and blues and red. So with the retail area, it was all traditional products from their hometowns. So you can see on the bottom left hand corner there's a small table at the front which is near a window. So again, that's that sort of look and feel as soon as you look in, but they would serve from there as well. And then there's a column that you can see behind there on the right hand side, which is the picture above. So they designed a homewares collection. So it's all very simple, neat and tidy. They had their own cookbooks as well, which you can see on the bottom shelf. But again, so the label strip, which I introduced into Nero, I put in here as well. And again, everything is labelled. So with the marketing department, they didn't have labels on anything at all. When I went in there, it was just really bad. They weren't really doing anything well. So it's getting them up to speed with all those design elements as well from a customer.
And can I ask, with all of these changes, I mean, obviously they were doing relatively well anyway because they were able to bring you in and they were still a big brand name. So how big a difference did these layouts make to them?
Well, they weren't really doing anything, and the managers would just run off their feet. They weren't really maintaining anything, and they weren't really maintaining their stock levels either. They were just buying whatever they wanted and sticking it on a shelf. They just weren't looking after it. They weren't tracking their sales or anything. So, which is something that they wanted to do. They wanted to track the sales. They wanted a bit more emphasis on the retail and the display side. And again, when we opened up new cafes, we would have displays inside. So in the picture at the top, you can see an image there that was a Serene, like their visual logo, but there's lots of displays around her as well. And above you can see shelves, so we would always have shelves running around the top of the canteens, and they were Moroccan bags. So they wanted to display everything well in every site.
Okay.
So it's just, again, doing the same thing in every site and doing it well, but having someone who could maintain that for them. And they didn't have any visual guidelines either. And I did training with the staff as well, so they could maintain it when I wasn't there.
Right.
Otherwise, people would just do what they thought was right.
Yeah.
And it would just look different everywhere, and it wouldn't look right either.
Okay.
So,
But where did more sales start to come through?
more sales did start to come through. Different stores sold in different patterns, but just categorizing everything. So when the homewares came in, it just sold out straight away.
Really?
Yeah, because it was new, it was different, and we were trying to shift it around to stores that were selling it better than others as well. So you kind of need to think about those things.
Okay.
But they were a little bit slow on the uptake in getting another batch produced. So by the time that came into the stores months later, it kind of lost its appeal in a way. So you need to think about these things as well.
Okay, I think sort of most, again, you need a big space to do a lot of this retail side of things, unless you're selling little sauces or things that sort of the complementaries. I mean, very few places that I see, have this type of shelf space. Yeah. But you can still make it look pretty,
for sure.
And you can still increase your sales by putting other things in there and creating that atmosphere.
Creates the vibe.
And I think sort of the kitchen, the counter that we were talking about in here as well is also a very big deal. I mean, look at the display there in the bottom left where you have all those pastries sort of up in a triangle.
Yes.
Pyramid.
Yes.
A pyramid.
Yes, which is a very traditional way for them to display.
Right.
So yeah, and again, just having nice silverware as well. It's traditional silverware from the Middle East, which gives it that look and feel and that vibe as well. Yeah, definitely. So, interior layout, so floor plans, very important.
Huge thing. Yes. Because we've talked a lot about the look of things, but now this, I guess,
where do we put everything?
Yeah, but it's also the operational side. This is where you have to look at how your staff move around.
And your tables. How do people enter? So there was seating outside. So on the bottom of the floor plan, you can see it says outside seating. And then, so that was also kind of like when you're walking along, you'll see a lot of outside seating outside a lot of cafes. So that introduces the look and the feel. People will have umbrellas with their branding on it. So they immediately introduces the look and the feel. And Comptoir had this really nice rose print, which they would put onto vinyl, onto the seating as well. So that gave it lots of colour and an instant look and a feel. But then you enter, what happens when you enter? They would always have someone host standing at the front to ask them if they're going to take away, or if they just wanted coffee, or if they want to sit down for a meal. So the blue area on the right hand side is the counter area. So there was a takeaway till there as well, where people could just take away, but there was enough kind of space for people to stand and move around as well.
Okay.
So when you walk in on the left-hand side, you can see that there was a natural column in that build. So we put shelving around it, and that's where the retail area was. And then the seating is in sort of the main area as well. But people would also walk past the counter to go to the toilet at the back. So there was some shelving at the back where we would have some more retail products as well.
So you're basically placing everything where you're going to get the maximum amount of sight, if that's the term. So the more people that see it, the more you're likely you are to sell something. Yes,
but overall, it's just a nice visual look and feel. So the photo on the bottom left-hand side is the entrance. When you walk in, then you're seeing what's on the right hand side. So the photo on the bottom right hand side is looking from the back to the front. So you can see the counter on the left hand side and sort of the seating on the right hand side. And in a lot of cafe and restaurant areas, there's a lot of communal tables which are very important as well. So if someone wants to work, or you've got a larger group of people, or you're getting a takeaway order, you just want to sit down for a moment, you've got that space where people can do that as well. If it's too formal, people think, I don't want to sit down at that table. It feels a bit too sort of formal.
Right. So starched tablecloths.
Exactly.
Okay. And so just looking at sort of the layout of the seating area, because again, if you're a restaurant, that's what you have. You have your seating area. Yes. You don't really have takeaway. Well, you probably would have Deliveroo or something. But, but on the front of it, if you want people to either come in, you've got 2 or 3 seatings an evening, and you want people in and out through. But also, this using of the space is a huge area. So, I mean, how do you figure out how much space to it's not
accommodate.
Yeah. So how many people can you fit into an area? I mean, I know it's down to the types of tables that you use, but you were saying earlier about, making sure that prams can come through.
Yeah.
I've even seen on some cafes where they're saying no prams allowed.
Yes.
Or
you have a space somewhere else.
Exactly, to leave the prams.
Yeah. Well, you need to think about your number of covers. So are you very small and only have 20 covers? Are you a little bit bigger and have 50? Are you quite larger and have 100 plus?
Yeah.
So think about your number of covers and the amount of people that you want to move through the space if you're going to be busy. Depends on your pricing as well. If you're an expensive restaurant, people will probably sit down at 8 and not leave until 11 or something.
Yeah.
So that's that space taken care of for the whole evening. Or if someone comes in at 6 and leaves at 8 for a show, or someone comes in and takes that table at 8:30 and stays until 10:30, 11.
Right.
So you're getting 2 seatings out of that one table.
Right.
So if
you want to maximise the covers.
Yeah,
or
so you might be
the
around
covers.
theatres, or you might be around where people are going out, or a transit area, or an airport, or it depends, where you are, or you just might be in the suburbs and people just come for a nice relaxed evening. So yeah, you have to think about, but if you have, a lot of people don't really think about seating. So if you have a table of 4 with only 2 people on it, well, there's 2 spare seats.
Right.
So, and I see it in pubs a lot as well. So people just kind of lay themselves out for the evening, and it's like, I look into a place, I'm like, well, there's all these spare seats. Are they really using them, maximising them to their best advantage?
So what's best to do then? Get lots of sort of smaller tables
Smaller
for 2?
tables for 2. You can put them together, you can pull them apart. Yeah, I mean, a communal table is really good. So if, say, 6, 8 or 10 people come in, great, just shove them on that communal table,
right.
and they can look after them. So, that space taken care of. But you need to look at your tables and how they're turning over. I mean, if you have a good manager and a good host on site, then they are looking at that table turnover as well, definitely, for sure. So a lot of businesses will have nice banquet seating. So on the left-hand side of that floor plan where the orange line is, even though it says bags, that's a display area, but underneath it, in both the photos on the right-hand side, there's banquet seating that goes all the way around that wall area. So that's a good way to have a nice seating area with tables lined up in front of it with chairs on the other side, which is very traditional for a lot of businesses to do.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's very easy to move tables apart, put tables together, that type of thing as well, if you need to.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's going to depend on the space that you have and the dimensions and, all of that kind of thing.
You can have 3 tables individual put together to make 6 or to make 4,
right.
or to pull those apart or to put those together.
Basically, allow yourself flexibility.
Yeah, allow yourself flexibility, and if a group of people come in, always know what table space is available in your restaurant at all times if you're busy, and then you can see who's coming through the door. If it's 2 people, they're much easier to seat, but you don't want to skip down the queue and go to a table of 2 people if there's a table of 4 or 6 that are waiting to sit down. So you need to be in control of your flow. If you're busy, your flow and your space and what's happening with your tables as well.
Okay. And
think about, let's just get those 2 people down there in the corner and let's leave this area here for 4 or 6 people if need be. So you need to really think about those things as well.
So is it better then to have square tables rather than round tables?
It depends on the look and feel. I mean, you can put 4 or 6, chairs around a round table, or a round table could be sort of more of a community sort of space. But it depends on how, your look and feel as well. I mean, I'm not always comfortable sitting on a communal table if there's lots of other people around. You usually always want to have a space in between if you're going to seat people like that. But if you get really busy, then you need to put people in between. So say Wagamama, for example, will always have a space in between people.
Yeah.
You walk in and everyone's always spread out around all the communal table spaces. But at some point, if they get really busy, they need to fill those spaces in.
Right.
So you just need to be aware of that. If that's your look and feel and how you want to operate.
But they want people in and out quickly, Wagamamas.
Yes.
They don't want people sitting there all night.
No, ideally sort of like an hour really, but if people are going to sit around, it might be sort of like maybe 2 hours max in a space like that.
Right.
Particularly if they're going off to see a movie or catching up with a friend and going off to get the train or that type of thing.
Yeah, but it's more like it's a nice bite, but a quick bite in Wagamamas, where there's like like a Michelin star type of restaurant. That's your all night. It doesn't even have to be Michelin star, but you're there all night.
You're there all night basically. Yeah, exactly. So no, I probably wouldn't have a large table unless it's specifically for a group that's going to book. So if people are booking in advance, then you want to give them the best space available for that number of people. Or if people know your restaurant well, they will ask, oh, can I have that table next to the window, da, 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 da.
Right.
So you need to,
be able to accommodate
and work around that as well.
And flexibility.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a big thing, big area.
Yeah, definitely. So, Wafflemeister. So Wafflemeister is an independent creperie. So this is a refurbishment and a refit that I worked on with them. So this is the after look, and I'm just going to flick to the before look very quickly so you can just have that in your mind. So this is the before look. So it's very American retro, and we refitted this only about 18 months ago. Prior to that, this had been fitted 2 years before that. So when they fitted it, it already had a slightly dated look and feel. So it's very red, black and white tiles on the floor, that real American diner look. It had those lit back menu boards, like your takeaway kind of hamburger place. The display were a bit messy. They weren't really using the space all that wisely. So they really wanted to make a change. Again, a little bit more of an open counter, artisanal look and feel. We took away elements that weren't working and kept elements that were working. So if you're doing a refit, that is definitely possible.
So what wasn't working?
So the counter area wasn't working. So that main display with the waffles just wasn't working. And they actually had fake waffles rather than real waffles, because obviously the ingredients would just melt or go to waste. So that definitely needed to be changed. The seating area needed to be changed. It just looked dated.
No, so you can't fit many people in.
You can't fit many people in there. No, it was just a very basic, boxy look and feel. And that main wall area was a wooden veneer, which was quite ugly, and it had mirrors on it. And I can say that because it was the one thing that I pushed when we did the refit. When we flick back to the after look, there's a fake white brick wall, which we put really nice displays on.
Okay.
So that was the one thing that I really pushed. And I said, if we do one thing in this space, we have to do the wall on the right-hand side, because that's your backdrop. That's your look and feel. When people look in and they see that, they're going to judge the space on that place, for sure.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're back onto the after look. So the image in the center, you can see right into the cafe. You can see the counter, which is on the left-hand side, and you can see that we've got a small seating area at the front as well. So we introduced some more wood into the cafe area. So when we refitted it, the countertop, we took the glass cabinet off, and we basically just left the white, so the area where the display is, that material is called Hymac. So it's a white Hymac material, and it was made for all the other sort of areas that they had fitted into it. But
is that just to brighten it up a bit, is it?
Yeah. Well, we just took the cabinet off, and we wanted an open display, basically, and a more artisanal display. So you can see that there's some nice wooden boards on there. There's some nice wooden trays, a few different levels, a few different heights. And brought in some nice cake domes as well. So they introduced some new products onto their menu, and they introduced some savoury products onto their menu as well. So they wanted to have more of a day part flow coming through, so breakfast, lunch, afternoon, dinner as well.
Okay.
Whereas before it was basically just waffles and milkshakes and a bit of coffee. So it would be any customer that wanted a waffle and a milkshake, and coffee wasn't really sort of a centre of it. So they wanted a more of a lifestyle feeling within the whole environment.
It's a dramatic change to what they were doing.
It's a dramatic change, but we only changed a few things. So redoing the wall on the right-hand side to make it a fake white brick wall with a shelving going along it with some displays and some images as well. We reupholstered everything. So again, when I was talking about mood boards, I did a mood board with Wafflemeister. So we started with lots of colours. We didn't want to, so their branding is red and white in the logo that you can see. So we kept that, obviously. But then we introduced a burgundy colour, and in the seating you can see a blue and a green and a few beiges and still a few browns, but in different fabrications as well. Okay. So the owner, his favourite colour was blue. So we introduced blue because it just worked well as well. So, and the green was a nice fresh colour, but having different colours next to each other sort of differentiates and sort of divides the seating as well. And at the front of the cafe, there's just a few small round tables, and they could open the glass out. So in summer, you could just have a nice little fresh breeze coming through, very inviting. And then we introduced a small sofa area that you can just see tucked in behind those tables. So, and on the right-hand side, there's some individual booths for 2 people, but then down the back, there's some larger booths for 6 or 8 people because they would have families coming in as well. Okay. And we also introduced PowerPoints and USB underneath all of the tables as well, so people could charge up. So
that's a big thing these days.
A very important thing. So if someone wanted to come in for a meeting, they could go down the back for a meeting with 6 people if they wanted to and do a presentation or something. Or if you're just having a coffee with your friend, like out the front, you can see a couple of people enjoying the sun and just having a catch up, then you could do that as well. So it's a little more multi-use with the seating area and just a bit of a different look and feel with the colours and the
appealing to a much wider audience.
Appealing to a much wider audience, and they changed their menu as well. So there was more of a focus on sort of breakfast with pastries in the morning alongside their waffles, and they introduced crepes as well. So sweet and savoury. So they changed their menu, and I brought in a graphic design friend who redesigned all their menus. So you can see that those big white lit boxes are all gone, and we have just some nice, almost handwritten looking menus behind. Okay. And then they had some printed menus as well on the counter or on the tables that people could pick up. So there was a little bit of a mix of personalised service and not serve yourself, but counter service as well.
Okay, again, appealing to people who kind of wanted a quick and grab and go type of thing.
Yes.
Okay, and also just on the left-hand side, the bottom left-hand, the entire left-hand side actually, I can see that you've totally changed how things are displayed. Yes. Now, were they plastic as well, or are they real waffles?
No, so there are still plastic waffles there, but they look real. They're that. Yeah, when you can do fake plastic that actually looks real. But we also had a stack of real waffles on the left-hand side of that bottom picture that you can see as well. Yeah. So there was a little bit of smell and ambience coming from that as well.
Because they don't look fake, those.
They don't look fake at all. And in the top picture, on the very back on that tiled wall, you can see 2 tiered areas, and they actually had a savoury dish on them. So we would have a white plate with a savoury dish on them as well, which was real food. So, I mean, but they could afford to waste that over a day because it was a new item, and they were trying to promote that as well.
You see this a lot, and particularly things like street trade and that kind of stuff. You'll see a lot of these types of things where they'll make up exactly what you will get. Yes. And I think that's a very important way, because it's about
how do you know
speed.
otherwise? So,
yeah, and we advise people to do that.
Unless you're cooking right in front of people, and people can kind of see, and you have a menu right there, and people can see it like burger. I mean, everyone knows what a burger is. But it's a different type of dish which people might not quite really know. Then you kind of need to have that dish there. So so people would feel more comfortable coming in for a coffee and having lunch and sitting down for an hour, rather than just, whereas before people were like, what do I do here? It just didn't have the right kind of look.
Yeah, so unless you're looking for an actual waffle, which, to be honest with you, is not the biggest thing on my mind all the time. No. But going in for a coffee and a sandwich or a crepe or whatever, I would do that an awful lot more often. Yes. So they really opened up their audience, didn't they?
Really opened up their audience, and we had a really nice wooden trug with fresh fruit in it as well. well. So they concentrated more on juices. So they really doubled their menu, really.
In the same space.
In the same space, you can do that, yes. But the sales instantly shot up. Like, it was just a success overnight, because people came in for the look and the feel. They could see it, and underneath the branding outside, you can see it says breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert. So people knew that they could come in for all these different things. Whereas before, you think Waffle House, well, what do I do there? There wasn't really a nice, comfortable, lifestyle-y vibe where you could just sit down. Whereas people could look in, see that instantly, go, yep, I'll go in there.
Yeah, the last place, I might bring the kids there once in a blue moon, because I know they're going to be eating like 1,500 calories per one of those, so I won't bring it very often. But, you know, something like this is much more inviting, it's much nicer, and it much more appeals to me.
Yes, as well.
And that's the thing. And it obviously that's the way it was for everybody, because the sales shot up. Yeah. And also, you're talking about sort of the outside signage as well, and that's something that we also get a lot of questions on, because particularly for a lot of people on areas of high footfall, they can't have signs outside, they can't have A-frames, and the council won't let them, or any of this kind of stuff. So that's a very good way of getting over it, is almost putting...
If you have that space, you need to tell that quick story. So it says Waffelmeister, handmade Belgian waffles, You look down, you can see the space. When you look in, you can see the counter straight away. There's a really nice appealing display there. Bang, 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 bang. Seating, it just captures you. So the decision is not being made for you, but you can make it very quickly. And one of the reasons why they wanted to refurbish is because it was also their head office, and they were a franchise business for overseas. So everybody would, this is in Kingston, by the way.
Okay.
So everybody, you'd have to go to Kingston to come here, but it was well known in Kingston because it was on the mall. One of the first ones that you would come to on the mall. But anyone from a franchise perspective would come to this to see it and go, oh, this is what you're all about. So they were selling the brand to their franchisees as well. And, and opposite them, there was a two-story Pret. And there weren't that many places in Kingston to sit down. So the Pret was rammed, excuse the word rammed, but it was literally rammed. Yeah. And Waffelmeister, who was opposite them, was half empty most of the day. So they knew they needed to make that change and to capture that audience if they were going to survive.
And if sales shot up, it happened. It became busy and full.
Yes, that definitely happened for sure.
And I would do that too. If I go to somewhere that's two places literally standing side by side, and one of them is really, really busy, and one, looks nice. I'm not going to go and get a terrible cup of coffee, but if it looks nice and there's more space, I'll go there. Yeah,
exactly. And just a few other interior pointers in this space. We kept the wooden floor. We didn't touch anything there. The wall at the back, which is burgundy, we just painted it. Let's see. The shelving on the white wall matched the wooden paneling on the front of the counter. It's the same type of wood. The tabletops, again, it was the same type of wood. I bought a few vintage props just off eBay and just did some small groupings of displays. The owner had all these really nice old-fashioned waffle irons that he took photos of and had them printed. So they were prints that we just put onto the wooden shelf. So again, the print at the back is a black and white vintage print. His family has a baking history in Germany, so that print reflects that. So it gives a little bit of a story about tradition as well and who they are.
It brings in a personality.
It brings in a personality, yeah. So you don't need to change everything. And the photo on the top left-hand side, you can see their Waffelmeister logo. In the before image, it was right at the back of the cafe, so you could see it, but not until you got inside. So when people walk past, you could see that instantly, and then it just ties in with the look and the feel at the front on the counter with all the fresh food.
So again, it's very obvious an awful lot of time and effort went into this, and really thinking about how people were going to use it, really thinking about how you could expand the menu and entice different people in.
Yes.
How you're going to display it so that it looked lovely. Without wasting food because it was plastic, which is really clever. Changing the seating, putting the signs on the outside, and the look and the feel. I mean, that is an enormous. I mean, as you said, you didn't. When you said at the beginning, I didn't change that much, but you did, really.
You did, but you have to think about what you want to change and what you can't change. The floor at the front was black and white tiles, but that was a bit jarring on the eye. So
I thought that actually. It's
a bit sort of. It was American Diner retro. That was the fit out that they kind of went with. But it was a nice vinyl that we put down, nice subtle cream beigey colour, didn't interrupt too much. But lighting is very important in cafes as well. So in the top right hand corner, that lighting is not new. So it's an industrial looking lampshade, but we kept that. So that fitted in
with the new look.
With the new contemporary but slightly traditional kind of look. And the seating, the owner really wanted sort of those buttons on the upholstery as well, just to give it a slightly more higher end look as well. Okay. So you can mix that look and feel. But then again, we've got so the globes that you can see in the center image. I did a chandelier with some old-fashioned type globes, and then around the counter area as well. So you can see a close-up in the top left-hand side. So that industrial open filament globe look is very big, but no one in Kingston was doing it. So so it was really good to have that element. But lighting is very important. You need to turn it up, you need to turn it down, depending on the time of day. Music is really important in an atmosphere as well, to have the right music. Yeah.
And not too loud either.
Not too loud. Yeah. Right music, right time of day.
Do you deal with the music side of things as well?
No, but most people will just sort of put a playlist. You could have like an AM early morning, or sort of like an afternoon or an evening playlist, and just have that on your iPod or what have you. So
do you change it around? It'll drive your staff mad.
It will drive your staff. Your staff will be the first people to complain about anything, not your customers. Leaving them because they're there all day, all the time, having to listen and do things. But operationally, there was a lot that had to happen, because the food service in Wafflemeister, you could see the waffles and the crepes being cooked in front of you. So that was part of the theatre as well.
Right.
So
people love that.
People love that. Yeah. Definitely, for sure.
Okay, so a big change, and it sounds like a very big success.
Yeah, a worthwhile change, definitely, for sure. And I mean, we spent a chunk of money, but it wasn't as much as you probably,
that you could have.
You could have.
I mean, it was the flagship, right? So you had people coming in to buy franchises.
Yes.
That's worth spending money on.
That's worth spending money on.
It really is your share house.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually brought a contractor friend in who worked with me at Cafe Nero. So we knew each other really well. And we didn't have to put everything down on a plan. We could just go, well, let's do that there, let's do that there, let's do that there. Because we knew, we worked together, we knew what, wooden tabletops would look like, and the owner was very quick to say yes, and he was actually a visual person. So putting a mood board together, and with the operations person as well, who wasn't quite so visual, but she knew what good looked like. So when you're working with good people and they know what good looks like, it helps a lot to make those quick decisions as well.
Okay, to move things
along as well. Yeah, because everything takes so much more time than you can ever anticipate. And just to have a program, so we had to shut down for a week to get all of this done as well.
Oh wow.
So the furniture that was upholstered had to come out, get reupholstered and come back in again within a week. And the upholsterer was really good. He knew the contractor, so he put our order in front of some others just to turn it around.
It was nice of him.
So you've got to be nice to people, you need to know people, get to know people, deal with people the way that you would like to be dealt with, and think, okay, so what's my timeline? What's everything that I need to do? How do I
it's a real project plan.
Yes.
So how long does a typical fit out take? I mean, you're talking about a week there, but you've got a lot of things rushed through because you knew the right people.
Well, a couple of months beforehand. Like we started a good sort of 2-3 months beforehand, and at the very beginning it was very slow going. Until we decided what we wanted to do, and then sort of a month, 6 weeks later, brought in my contractor friend. This is what we're thinking about doing, and he was like, well, I could start in a month's time, So it's that kind of process.
Okay, so think about it. I mean, again, a lot of people, and we would like this, that a lot of people think about this first, and people do think about it when they're buying things, but because a lot of people don't have the experience of being a restaurateur or a cafe owner, they tend to do a lot of things that seem like a good idea, but in actual fact, it doesn't, and it's worth...
Do the right thing from the beginning.
Do the right thing from the beginning.
And don't waste money. Once you've spent that money, it's gone, and then you'll just have to leave it. And 6 months later, you'll be like, this isn't working. Well, you don't have the money to fix it.
So it's worth spending a few £100 on somebody like yourself to come in and have a look, really, isn't it?
And just the time and understanding what the right way is to go about it.
Because I know what looks nice, but don't ask me to put it together. I wouldn't know how to do it.
So you need to think operationally, but you need to think from a customer point of view as well. So that display, even though we took the glass cabinet off and we didn't change the counter area, I had to work with the counter area to put that display on it. But I knew I could make that work.
Right.
Whereas you yourself might not know how to make that work.
No, but I wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? You'd kind of copy what you see other people do, but as you said, don't copy.
Don't be lazy.
Yeah.
Put your own personality
into it. Okay.
Yes.
So basically, if you're doing this for the first time, the best advice is get somebody like David in to have a look. You don't have to do the whole thing, right? But just some advice on the right ways to go.
Just to
talk
consult
through some themes, talk through some ideas, talk through the flow of people coming through the floor area. How is it going to look? How are you going to maximize the sales from the space that you have?
Yes.
And still at the same time make it, because if people think it's just a commercial thing, they won't do it. So it has to be comfortable.
There needs to be a reason why you're doing everything.
Yeah, exactly. So, I would certainly get somebody in to look at that sort of thing for me, because it's not my forte. I know it looks good, but I'm not that visual to be able to figure it out. You know what I mean? It's not
and someone like me can just fix a lot of problems for you instantly.
Yeah.
I don't need to think about it. I can just say, that will work, that won't work. Don't waste your time on this, spend the money here.
Right.
And you need someone who can understand that.
Okay.
And this is a very specific environment, particularly from a visual merchandising point of view, but from a design point of view and a fit out point of view, and how to operate as a cafe and a restaurant as well.
Yeah.
So it's that 360-degree feeling about everything. How does everything work together?
Right. Exactly. Very important. Very important.
For sure. That's why we're here.
It is. It's true.
Okay. So let's review. What are we thinking about? So who is your customer? What are you selling? Where is your business positioned? Is it on a local street, a busy high street, a relaxed village atmosphere? What is the atmosphere or the neighborhood like in your area? So when you're talking about brand or theming or food, you can think about those kinds of things as well.
So look at your exteriors first, I guess.
As well, yes.
Yeah. Certainly footfall is a big thing. Many people who've gone, I have a great space, but it's like down an alley somewhere.
Yes.
And no one's going to see it, no one's going to go.
Yes.
And the rent was cheap.
Unless it's like a secret bar, it's open late hours or something.
Right, but then you need really good marketing to bring people in and make it cool and have a celebrity in. That type of thing. So, because I think that is important, and people are like,
people like that. Yeah.
I have this amazing store, I'm going to put it in here.
Yeah.
This guy said, I have a candle store and I want to put a cafe in. I'm like going, okay, but you're in the middle of an industrial area.
Oh,
that's not going to work.
That's weird.
I can see where the candles might work because it's a wholesaler, but
okay, why would you put a cafe in there as well?
So thinking of those types of things, and people who have bought, either they didn't have the budget to be able to battle with the bigger brands, and so, but they still managed to get a space like 3 doors away, and so they didn't look as nice as the other people because their budget was much lower.
Look at who is next to you as well, because if you have a cheap discount store or something next to your nice cafe, might be the only space you can find in town, but it will reflect on who's next to you to a degree as well.
Yes.
So definitely think about those things.
And also, though it's not really part of this one here, but how many other cafes or restaurants in the area that are doing similar things?
Yes.
That, the more cafes there are, then the less people that are coming in.
The less to go around, so to speak. Yeah, exactly.
A little bit off point, but important.
It's very, very important. When you're deciding at the beginning how we're going to do this and why we're going to do this, very important for sure, definitely.
Okay.
So what is the essence of your product, brand or business? How are you presenting your business and engaging your customers? Can your customer find everything they need easily? Do products have a price and a label? Is the space clean, inviting and easy to move around? So we've covered all those points in the floor plan and
So think about that holistic, and then look at each. Why is that there? Does it need to be there?
Yes.
Is there somewhere else that would be better? Is there a better layout? Can I fit more tables?
Think operationally from your point of view, but think from the customer point of view.
Right.
Definitely.
Both has to work in that. So there's an awful lot in this.
An awful lot in this. Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Okay, brilliant. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
That's okay, no problem.
Very good. So one more slide, I think, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh yes, this is just about you, really.
About me, really, again.
So there you have it. So look, as you all know, I ask a lot of questions as I go along, but obviously I may not have asked the question that you wanted to get answered. So if that is the case, David's email address, his website is there for you on the left hand side, so please do give him a call. He's also available on our platform. You're in our experts area, and
yes.
also I think you're on interested in our members database.
Yes,
as
I
well.
am in the member database.
So all of that is there for you. So there's many different ways to get in touch with David, and please do that. And particularly if you're early on in this journey, get some help, get some advice. The amount of stores that we've gone into and have to go,
oh gosh,
we have to start again here,
yeah.
and they're just very distraught because there's a lot of money that goes into these fit outs.
Yes.
And it's very important to get it right. So
yes.
please do spend the extra few £100 just even getting 1 or 2 consultations to get this right. Understand what you're getting yourself into, and use your space in the best way possible. It's a very big thing. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and my website is a really good go-to place. There's a lot of information on there, particularly on what I've done in the past and how it's worked for other people and testimonials. So you can really see there's a nice lifestyle look and feel to my website. Right. It's not in your face, but it's professional, it's simple, you can read everything really easily, it's very visual.
There's a lot of information for people to read. Okay, that's a big thing. Yeah. So armed, get yourself armed, get the information.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. So please do that, get in touch with David, and even if you can't find him, get in touch with us and we'll do it on the platform as well for David. So yeah, so there you go. So listen, thank you very much for joining us.
No problem.
I really appreciate it. It really has been fantastic.
Yeah. It's always different every time, isn't it?
It is. Because we have done this one a few times, haven't we?
Yeah.
It's to get this information to people, and from our point of view, we would like people not to make mistakes. You will make mistakes, but to make less mistakes, and particularly at the beginning or when things aren't working out, to be able to sort of move things around, to turn the business around. Retail, very difficult. Restaurants, very, very difficult. The margins are particularly low. The startups are particularly high. So it's very important to get this right.
And if you don't know, bring that expert in, because it's worth it in the end.
It really is worth it in the end.
It'll just save you so much time, effort, money, worry, logistics, everything.
You want a successful business, and that starts with your shop front.
And this is part of it.
Yeah. And we 100% agree with that. So anyway, we've talked for enough time now.
Forever.
Brilliant. So listen, you know how to get in touch with David. Please do that. Again, we're available as we always are. And thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much,
Soraya.
You're welcome.
It's been great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.